is currently on the cover of Vanity Fair. Apparently she's coming out with a new album. I really like some of her stuff. Like I really liked Acid Rain Chronicles. I like the concept of like a video album type idea, and the other artists she worked with too were really, really good. And I really like some of her singles. I like ethereal music. Ethereal, sort of borderline experimental music, and like Grimes, I'm also not overly musically educated. I educated myself on just what interests me, is kind of like how my sense of musicality is. And recently, I've been shooting my mouth off on YouTube. And the Prime Minister of Great Britain was saying that he's bringing in nuclear power. And I was like, I think my exact words are, "You're fucking insane." And I think I followed that up with like, "You were going to pollute the entire Atlantic Ocean." Is that not a possibility? Is that not a possibility? Right? Elon Musk apparently, he recently spoke out against, he spoke out recently in favor of nuclear power. And I admire Elon Musk a lot. I think his giving away the patent to the Tesla, the electric car, I mean, this guy could milk that and become like the next General Electric, right? Quite easily. But he's literally giving it away to humanity, so that, and his reasoning being that if you're in a sinking ship and you have the patent to a bucket, you give up the patent to the bucket, right? It's, to me, that's like dharma. That's, to me, that's saying a lot. I'm very, I don't know. I mean, I'm not wealthy. I'm not wealthy. I'm not overly educated. But I think if you have the money to do something like that, then if money is not an obstacle, then it shouldn't be an obstacle. I quite admire that. And then recently, he bought, or he didn't buy, but he became a large shareholder of Twitter. Twitter is an incredibly toxic platform, an incredibly dangerous platform after you watch what happened with Donald Trump. You want to talk about the rise of fascism in America, there you go. Right? And I guess the reason being is that the issue is that, like, it is very much a place where free speech is very much problematic. I agree. I was on Twitter for a while. I got kicked off Twitter because I said something to the effect of, "Fuck Satan." You get kicked off of Twitter for saying "fuck Satan"? I was allowed back on Twitter as well, but I just deleted everything and walked away because I was like, this place is insane. I think that is also incredibly admirable. If you're prepared to like take something like that on, and money's not necessarily an issue, and find some sort of solution to that problem, then that's also very admirable. We have different opinions on nuclear power. I think the reason why he spoke up was to combat disinformation. That again is also very admirable. Sabrina Hoffman recently spoke up in favor of nuclear power. I'm not a physicist, right? I'm not a physicist. Uh, I think physics is incredibly interesting. Um, I think it's interesting that math isn't the core sole aspect of physics. Math is a part of physics. I think that's an incredibly interesting aspect of physics. Um, Physics and astronomy I find incredibly fascinating, but also limited to knowing what other people know, right? But she spoke out in favor of nuclear power plants. Some nuclear power plants were shut down in Germany, and they're talking about opening those back up now, I think. There's one in France. Here's my issue, right? Like, I cannot not respect these people's opinion, right? Very, very well may be valid arguments. My opinion on it is very kind of like bohemian in a lot of ways, but I don't know that my opinion is also wrong. Even though I'm not educated on the matter, because there's history behind my opinion. And so the reason why a large part of the Western world is moving towards nuclear power is because gas is a natural resource coming in from like places like Russia. This is all sort of part of the trade embargo. I mean, you do what you have to do. I think batteries. I was watching this interview with Elon Musk, and I said this a long time ago that like batteries are going to become vastly important to us in the future as we learn how to store energy, and smaller too. I think as well. Just like if you just think about it in terms of like cell phones, computers, cars, all kinds of things, right? The ability to store power as opposed to draw power is obviously going to become more important. It's just obvious. So the technology around batteries is going to advance vastly, and is already advancing vastly. And I think that the reason why it came to me is because we no longer use the C-style battery. Like, you never see the C-style battery. And that has been a mainstay of my life. The C and the 9-volt battery, they just kind of went obsolete. We still have AA and AAA kicking around. But my issue is like pollution. You know, you look at the disaster in Japan during their tsunami. I mean, and that apparently spread out through Asia. You know, they're getting readings in like tea leaves in China, apparently, and all throughout the Pacific Ocean. Could that not happen again? For whatever reason. And apparently one way of combating that is using smaller nuclear power plants. Good, okay. But still, what about pollution? Right? Now, using nuclear power in space, that might not be an issue. Right? That might not be an issue. Right? Because it can't necessarily... I don't see how. I mean, there's a wind in space, so it could be carried through wind. But I don't know how big of a deal it would be if we got to Mars, or we colonized Mars, and we left some nuclear power plants there, and we decided, you know what, screw it, this isn't worth it, let's go home. Right? Not necessarily a big issue, you know, depending on the quantity of, I guess, but not really a big issue. But on Earth, I think it's an issue. You know, you look at Chernobyl, like we downplay Chernobyl, but Chernobyl was a huge catastrophe, right? A huge environmental catastrophe. You know, are there still a few people there? Yes. You know, are there issues with environmental aspects, with, you know, how it's affect animals and stuff like that? Yes. Right? Is it incredibly drastic? Not now, but it was. You know, the with the tsunami in Japan, it was, they weren't able to contain it, so they just basically hid it as long as possible to sort of save face. And my concern, I mean, there's different concerns. You know, one is warfare, obviously, right? You have a sitting target, right? And it's not like World War II, you know, where Germany bombed the hell out of England. You know, they were able to piece themselves back together over time, right? With nuclear power, you are not able to piece that place back together, you know, in a rapid period of time, right? And then there's the issue that if it's on a shoreline, it has the possibility of spreading out into the ocean and polluting, you know, not just a huge food source of humanity, right? And thus polluting humanity, right? But polluting the food source of our food source, right? And our source of water, right? It just does not, like, here's the other issue in my head too, is that, like, we have it, Korea has it, North Korea has it, China has an abundance of it, you know, Japan has a bunch of it. All kinds of countries around the world are going like, okay, we're just going to start using nuclear power, right? And so now, sure, you have small power plants spread out, numerous amounts spread out all over the world. The other side of that is, how are you going to stop them, right? Because with nuclear technology, then you're looking at the onset of nuclear warfare, right? We're not really staring, we're kind of staring, we're staring at, you know, the nuclear missile, you know, kind of like held up on the wall as a trophy kind of thing at this point in time, as kind of like a threat, you know, don't make me go grab my nuclear missile. But the threat's real, right? Just because